Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Midday Live. My name is Efua Tieku. Top of the bulletin this afternoon. Economist blames hostile methods used in restructuring economy for massive job losses in the last 1 year. John Mahama supporters mount series of attacks on founder of AUCC after he admonished the former president to reconsider his flag bearership bid. On the foreign front, courts in DR Congo blames Jean-Pierre Bemba from contesting country's presidential elections. Welcome to Midday Live. Now to our very first story. NDC National Organizer Aspirant and former Deputy Minister of Employment and Information, Baba Jamal, says the previous national executives lacked the charm to retain the NDC in power during the 2016 elections. He reiterates he will use what the executives exempted to make sure he rights all the wrongs and brings the party into power come 2020 general elections. He spoke on New Day.
I'm bringing the same magic that I brought together with my colleagues in 2008 and took MPP off the seat. It's the same thing I'm bringing back. I'm bringing the same dedication, the same commitment, the zeal and desire to die a little for the party. That's what I'm bringing back.
That magic didn't work in 2016.
It worked. But when we were in party office, I was in the party office as the Deputy General Secretary for 8 years.
Right.
And that's why all the other colleagues that are contacting me are all my engineers or my people who I helped to train, So that time, the commitment, when you hear names that time like Ofosuampofu, Amabenuado, Tumesia Pia, these were committed guys. Haruna Idrisu, and some few that I can remember, Agbemonule, Inusa. Those names were very serious names. And when they are coming for a program, then you know that you have a lot on your hand. And the same commitment and the zeal to work is what I'm bringing back.
So this current crop of executives didn't have it. Is that the suggestion?
I won't say they didn't have it. Maybe what they had was not enough to maintain power.
Now, the Swami Municipal Assembly is working on a legislation to revert the Swami magazine to its original status as an industrial hub for automobile engineering. Municipal Chief Executive Dr. John Oseibo-Biebuahin says there is the need to create space for artisanal engineering by halting the erection of high-rise buildings, which only serves as trading and commercial purposes. The MC shared his vision for Swami with correspondent Beatrice Pugabra.
Over the years, I heard that they've acquired pieces of land here and there, and you hear stories, they never move. Then, because of that perception, some of the leaders find it easy to give their lands to developers, particularly spare parts dealers, who simply put up shops because that's where their interest lies. And gradually, they are ejecting the mechanics because the mechanics do not need stores. They need shed. But instead of finding a way of developing the area such that the mechanics will be maintained here, they rather develop stores. And these mechanic works cannot be done on top of the building. It must be done at the ground floor. So, I had time to discuss with some of their leaders, and I made them aware that given the opportunity, I will discourage the construction of stores over there. If it is shared, fine. So my intention is to collaborate with my assembly members so that we pass a bylaw that will restrain anybody from first developing without permit. In fact, most of the structures there are without permit. Even without proper land documents. Yeah, they are there, huge buildings. We want to encourage the young ones who are coming up to get enough space to work. If I'm an older person and I feel that I cannot work any longer, all I need to do is to rent my space to a younger person. At the end of the month, the person will come and pay me. this concept, I think, have not gone down with them. That is why they find it easy to sell their piece of land to developers who are only interested in putting up stores so that they can take huge amount of money. Forgetting that if they maintained even the sheds, they could equally receive good amount of money. I've been going around the chiefs within the municipality to interact with them. The plan is that from next week going, we are going to interact with the mechanics, particularly their leaders and the zonal leaders and whatever. There are some sprinter groups over there. We do our best to meet each one of them.
Dr. John Osei-Bobiebuahin sharing with us a number of visions that he has for the assembly as to how to decongest the Swami magazine and make it more tourist attractive, and also getting a historic site at Bremen where the kings and queen mothers of Asanteman are buried when they go to visit our ancestors. From Swami, Beatrice Biogabra, TV3 News.
Now let's look at one of our top stories. And former minister under the Jerry Rawlings administration, Kojo Yankah, is facing a barrage of attacks from John Mahama supporters on social media. Now, Kojo Yankah, who is also the founder of the African University College of Communications, in an open letter admonished former President Mahama to honorably bow out from politics as a statesman. In a Facebook post, the former Minister of Information under Jerry Rawlings expressed his admiration for the former president, urging him to give a careful thought to the decision to contest the flag bearership slot of the NDC. His comments suggest the former president should gracefully bow out of politics as a respected statesman. But this has not gone down well with supporters of the former president. Hours after Kojo Yankah's admonition, many of them have taken to social media, especially Facebook, to pouch holes into his argument. Some suggested his admonition was unsolicited and unwelcomed. Now, Professor Ransford Jampo is a political scientist and joins us on the phone lines. Good afternoon to you, Professor. Now, did Kojo Yankah say anything wrong? Did he say anything wrong? Professor Jampo, can you hear me? Professor Jampo, can you hear me? We have lost Professor Jampo on the line. We will try and get him back on the line, but we are asking him to comment on a comment by the former minister under Jerry Rawlings' administration, that's Kojo Yankah, who is facing a barrage of attacks from John Mahama supporters on social media. Kojo Yankah, who is also the founder of the African University College of Communications, in an earlier open letter, admonished former President Mahama to honorably bow out from politics as a statesman. In a Facebook post, the former Minister of Information under Jerry Rawlings expressed his admiration for the former president, urging him to give a careful thought to the decision to contest the flag bearership slot of the NDC. Professor Jampo has joined us back on the line. Good afternoon to you, Professor Jampo. Can you hear me now? Professor Jampo, can you hear me now? Hello, Professor Jampo. We seem to be having some challenges getting Professor Jampo on the line. But you're watching Midday Live on TV3. We are also live on DSTV channel 279. Now let's look at some other stories. Some pensioners are calling for an upward review of the retirement age of 60 years. On the sidelines of an event in Accra, they argue that after 60, they could still serve the nation.
Section 71(1) of the Constitution states that a person holding a civil service post shall, in accordance with Article 199 of the Constitution, retire from the service on reaching age 60. Justices of the Supreme Court may, however, voluntarily retire at age 60 or stay on till the compulsory age of 70. Some pensioners argue the retirement age should rather be pegged at 65. They argue that at 60, they could still offer service to the nation.
I appreciate the fact that it's in the Constitution, but I think it's about time we looked at that and asked ourselves why we're asking people who have still so much to give are being required to stop working at the age of 60.
They are calling for an upward revision of the retirement age to at least 65.
A president can be older than 60 years. Take our president, for example.
Labour expert Benjamin Arthur, however, disagrees. He explains that the youthful state of Ghana's population will put a strain on employment if the retirement age is increased. How prudent is it to revise the pension age upwards?
If you look at our economic atmosphere, you also want to look at age of retirement to wage bill. You also want to look at the opportunities for employment. You also want to look at the indices of job security and the rest. When you put all these things together for us and you look at our local context, it will not be wise.
He proposes changes in social security planning to enable pensioners retire comfortably.
The actual interest that push people to demand higher brackets for retirement is social security, a need, because people believe that when I stay on, I'm able to earn more, I'm able to sustain myself. So if we can get this question addressed, that at the end of your active work life, when they retire, they will be very comfortable. I am telling you, nobody or majority of the people will never ask for extension of their compulsory retirement ages.
It is not the first time the retirement age of 60 is being contested. In February, a US-based legal practitioner, Professor Stephen Kweku Asari, called for the retirement age to be pegged at 70. He referred to the current retirement age of 60 as a constitutional taboo. Noang Falong, TV3.
Now, the country has recorded high job losses within the last few months, and many people have described the trend as worrying. These job losses span across mining, media, and the banking sectors. Now, let's take a look at what do you think with people sharing their views on these.
Despite an increase in unemployment in the last 1 year, labor experts have predicted a further increase in job losses. What do Ghanaians think is the cause of these changes? We find out today on What Do You Think?
The banking sector, we've been doing something that are wrong, in the sense that World Bank of Ghana is saying that some people opened banks in a negative way. They took monies that were not supposed to be used to open banks, and then they also gave us how they're actually managing their offices or managing their banks in a way that was not according to what Bank of Ghana rules says. So then those crises happened. But then with other sectors, it could be that there is ripple effect of what's going on with the banks. Entrepreneurship is the way. And then we can go back to basics, which is farming, which we have neglected for a very long time. Because if the government was helping us grow our economy by doing what we know best, going back to basics, I think that was perfect for us. That Ghana Beyond Aid can actually come out if we decide to do our own stuff.
I think people have not come to a realization of who they are and who they are supposed to be. There's a lot of information in this world right now, and so you're able to understand who you are as a human being, to be able to develop yourself, kind of like self-development. You can go on the internet and check out a lot of stuff for yourself. If you try to depend on the government has nothing for you. It's the same people that we've actually employed into those places that are supposed to put out jobs for us. So you can't depend on the government. So I don't think unemployment should be a problem if people should come to understanding of who they are. Anything is a business out here.
Do you think this is more about innovating and developing yourself?
Exactly.
When the private companies, when they open jobs for the youth now, you see, the attitude of Ghanaians is no good. Somebody will open job for you, and instead of you to come to the job early to work, you stay in the house, you do a whole lot of things. So I think we Ghanaians should change our attitude towards job.
Unemployment is a big problem for us now. Look at SS people who are going to school now. After their graduation, what are they going to do? There's no hope unless we pray. So God will direct for a way. I have children in university. I'm even thinking about what they will do after graduation.
For me, I believe it's not normal if our leaders will do things right. The disease of Africa, we are not able to create anything. And once you are not creating and once you are not manufacturing, what do? Jobs will continue to be lost.
Let's talk about manufacturing. Do you think that will solve the unemployment problem?
Of course, it will.
Most of the graduates are around and then they've completed school all right. They don't want to use what they've practiced in school to live as it is now. That's the reason why the unemployment is more in the system. And I believe that the government also needs to support the youth in what they've specialized in so that it can help them also create avenue for themselves.
You say graduates are not ready for work. Are you trying to say their skills have not been developed? What are you talking about?
Every individual have a skill that they've practiced in school. If they can use what they've practiced in school into their real life now, what they've practiced in school to work, it will help them.
So those were some views on the streets about the job losses currently in the economy. Let's now take a look at what has been reported in the media recently now. So that's between 2015 and 2018. We have these companies and the number of job losses there from Goldfields, 200 people, GTP, Fidelity, 178 and 190, Diamond Cement, you're looking at 500 job losses, and then GCB 200 between the year 2015 and 2016. These are the numbers that we are seeing. These are the numbers of people losing their jobs in the economy. Now, the country has recorded high job losses, obviously, within the last few months, and many people have described the trend as worrying. These job losses span across mining, media, and the banking sectors. An economist, Dr. Lord Mensah, who spoke to 3FM's Winston Amwa on the Sunrise Morning Show, said the hostile methods used in restructuring the economy is causing the job losses.
Job losses is not completely new to Ghanaians. In 2016, when Ghana was plunged into its worst power crisis, many businesses collapsed, leading to massive layoffs. A quick glance of job losses within the last few years indicates more than 3,000 people in the mining sector have lost their jobs. In the media, it is 650, including recently the rebranded TV Africa. 1,700 people also lost their jobs in the banking sector. Whilst in education sector, some 200 people are believed to have lost their jobs. An economist, Dr. Lord Mensah, says the development is cause of hostile methodology used by government in cleansing the banking sector.
If you don't have a strong financial space, who is going to provide funds to the banks? And who is the fund will be lent to which company? So obviously, companies are not going to get money to expand. In the end, you're going to realize a situation where, we are not expanding. So what do? The only way we can keep our cost, down is to make sure that we lay off and keep the size that, we think we can manage. So these things are not surprising because the growth that we've been realizing are not, inclusive growth.
Meanwhile, a former Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour Relations under the erstwhile Mahama administration, Baba Jamal, says the problem is as a result of the wrong impression the then opposition NPP created about the economy.
Some people gave some wrong impressions that they were the masters of the game and that when they come, Ghana will be transformed in 18 months. Now they are in charge. They've lost it. They've lost completely hold on the economy. That Prophet Bawumia, who used to be chastising John Mahama and saying all sorts of things, has now virtually lost his voice.
This year, government plans to create 100,000 jobs through the Nation Builders Corps, but whether this is enough to close the unemployment deficit is something many citizens are closely monitoring.
So obviously this is a developing story. We keep hearing more and more of job losses, and we do have in the studio a labor analyst who will tell us a bit about what is happening in the sector currently. Ben Arthur, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, these job losses that we are seeing in this restructuring of the economy, was it inevitable?
Well, I will not liken these job losses to the restructuring of the economy. If you look at ILO, International Labour Organization's report on job outlook and trends in 2018, you will realize that in developing countries, there's a structural shift because of technological change in the job market. There's one thing that we don't have to sweep it under the carpet. We must be very sincere with ourselves. Technology is changing our banking ethics, our banking standards and everything. Now the telcos are the new banks. Telcos are the new banks. And the financial technology firms, the ICT firms who are able to transfer money, just with your mobile phone. I always use my mobile phone as a typical example. This is my banking hall. My teller actually sits on this platform. So the dynamics are changing. I've also made a prediction.
But is it that we did not see this coming and that we have sat down for it to suddenly fall on us?
Others are swimming very well in the wave. We are in a technological age where everything is moving so fast. If, unfortunately for us, let me pass this comment, unfortunately for us in this country, most of our banking institutions depend so much on the formal sector. That is the public and the private sectors. But the informal sector constitutes about 85% of all employed persons in Ghana. So anybody who is mopping up liquidity, if I should put it this way, from that sector is going to do well. So the telcos are actually the ones who are able to get the money from these sectors. Where the money is, go to Abosoka spare part shops and find out how much they deal in a day. These are people who are holding the core money of this country. But it looks as if our institutions and certain standards and practices are not reaching out too well to this group of people. So if we have the telcos and the fintechs doing very well by just sending tests and figures across, obviously you must know, I've always maintained that when MTN succeeds in getting its license, Barclays, GCB and the rest may have to collapse. In the media, on the media platform, in the media houses, we're going to experience further layoffs simply because now I no longer have to come here or go to Graphic Corporation, print something and give it to them to put it in their newspapers to advertise for me. It's the government institutions who are mandated to do that. The large corporations who are mandated to do that. Now I sit on social platform, type something, send it to one or two groups, and it's on the wave. So when we have such a time and season, you don't sit there just keeping your small printing house. A time is coming. I've said that the cameramen here may have to be
hold that thought for me. Hold that
changed.
thought there for me. We are joined on the lines by John Gachi, who is an economist. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Gachi. Mr. Gachi, can you hear me? Mr. Gachi, can you hear me? We seem not to, not to have written. We'll try and get him back on the line for that interview.
I wanted to make, when you were doing your presentation, normally for us in measurement, in measuring the output in terms of job creation, what we talk about is net job creation.
Right.
What it means is that there will be job creation, there will be losses, but you look at the net and see whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, that is the best.
Now, so many of the layoffs that within the banking sector has to do with the temporal and the contracts. Do these people have some compensation under the laws?
Well, if their contract spells it out, why not? But if you're a temporary worker or you're a contract worker, your terms and conditions are as the same as you might have had it when you were actually operating.
Okay, just hold a thought for me. We are joined again by John Gachi, who is an economist. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Gachi.
Good afternoon.
Now, do you agree with Dr. Mensah that restructuring of the economy is so harsh that it has led to this huge job losses? I'm asking if you agree with Dr. Lord Mensah. He did say that restructuring of the economy has been so harsh that it has led to these job losses. Do you agree with him?
Well, I don't see any serious restructuring. of the economy. But some aspects of the management process is the result of some of the things that we are seeing. For example, if you decided to reduce deficit drastically, and the approach you are using is to stop payments to some contractors who in turn would have used that money to spread across the economy, that was not happening. And if you decided that by reducing deficit, you are actually taking money from all the district assemblies across the country for which they are not engaging in business activities, definitely it will have effect on other parts of the economy. So I think that to a large extent, it is the approach to managing the economy, one way or the other, that is resulting in some of these things.
Now, so is this mainly local, or there's some external pressures also?
Well, we have some external pressures that relate to the management of the currency some time ago, and those things, they are not continuous. They come as a shock, and the currency responds to that through a massive depreciation. And after that, I think we come to normal. But to a large extent, most of the things are domestic driven. If you take the banking sector, they are domestic driven. If you take a decision to stop Galamsey, and by extension, you extended it to legitimate license holders in the small-scale mining sector, which affected some of the financial institutions, affected jobs across board. Those things are typically internal. They have nothing to do with external issues.
Now, so how long are we likely to see this trend continue?
Well, I think the cycle may continue because some of the policy measures that we have taken, we have not thought through as to the far-reaching effect it will have on the economy. And some of them will continue to have some far-reaching effects. For example, we decided to implement free education. Nobody is against it. But the result is that most of the private secondary schools that we have in the country don't have students they used to have. Some of these people have engaged in some construction of infrastructure, taking loans from the bank. They are not getting the cash flow to pay off those loans. So if you see non-performing loans going up, that is not surprising. It's as a result of some of these things happening. Those people will continue to lay off. So what I'm trying to say is that if we are not careful, we may see replication of these job losses being announced even in the private educational sector within the country.
Thank you very much, Professor John Gachi, who is an economist. Now, Ben, back to you in the studio. So, in wrapping up, how should businesses begin in the wake of this technological era begin to also look at HR policies? I mean, in this case, it looks like some organizations were quite bloated.
Well, I will not be able to say yes or no to the figures, but definitely if there are job dynamics and there are shifts, you definitely have some kind of dissipation from, I mean, in terms of layoffs from one system or one industry to the other. If you look at our economy and look at where we're creating a lot of jobs, you see that in the areas of ICT, there are a lot of expansion and job creations. In my candid opinion, I think we have to begin to tackle the structural issues. When I say structural issues, the issues underlying some of these layoffs. One typical example is the skill set that we give to people, whether it is matched to the opportunities created in our industries or not. These are key areas. When an individual is going to school to get training, we have to match it to opportunities available, our national prospects, and probably where we want to go. We don't just have to just give accreditation to everybody, set up an university entirely going to do humanities. When you know that in this age, we need a lot of technical innovation and science education. Maybe let me use your platform to appeal to government that we stand on the edge of doing good to a lot of people by educating them. But after the education, if we do not have any exit plan, especially for those who might not within the short term continue, we wouldn't have done them too much good. So we need to make sure that the free education is geared towards technical,
right,
vocational and science education.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Entrepreneurial training. These are the way forward.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your thoughts. That was Ben Arthur, who is a labor analyst. This is Midday Live on TV3. Let's take a short break. We'll be back. You're welcome back. Economist Dr. Osei Asibe has named China the leading cause of the seeming scramble for Africa by the EU, US and UK. Speaking in an interview with Natalie Fort, he noted the Ghana government must revise its trade policies and investment approach with China and other foreign investors so as not to be shortchanged.
China is now the single largest bilateral financier of infrastructure in Africa, surpassing the ADB, the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, the International Finance Corporation, the World Bank, and the Group of 8 countries combined. Global management consulting firm McKinsey & Company analysis revealed that the amount of loans Beijing had made to Africa had tripled since 2012. It further projects that revenue for Chinese firms in Africa could hit $440 billion by 2025. British Prime Minister Theresa May has said by 2022 she wants the UK to be the G7's #1 investor in Africa, with Britain's private sector companies taking the lead in investing the billions that see African economies growing by trillions. Economist Dr. Osei Asibe says China is responsible for the increased momentum by G7 nations to shore up investments in Africa.
China did not build that master-servant relationship where, it's only about aid. They came in with more investment focus, investing in roads, investing in mining, investing in oil, gas. And it also fit very well into even our own president's mantra of Ghana beyond aid.
Investment and financing arrangements with China have led to Africa making significant new gains in trade. In 2010, China emerged the major source of finance for investment in new commodity extraction and helped boost the international market price for African exports. From January to September 2017, China was the leading source of investment in terms of project numbers in Ghana, registering 25 projects. In spite of these gains, economist Dr. Osei Asibe warns Ghana can be shortchanged if it fails to revise its trade policies and investment approach with China and other foreign investors.
I don't think we should continue to give them so much incentive, tax breaks, and so that in the end they will produce and government earns nothing from the revenue that is generated. I think now we need to redefine that. Much as we want them, they also want us.
China-Africa Research Initiative at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies has sounded alarm bells that African countries might be unable to repay Chinese loans due to fluctuating commodity prices and decreased absorptive capacity.
And that's all for business this afternoon. Let's take a look at some more stories. The police at Axim in the Western region have begun investigations into an incident involving some fishermen who allegedly attempted to drown a marine police officer. The suspects were reportedly protesting the inspection of their canoes, which contain light aggregated fishing devices and other illegal fishing implements.
The incident reportedly occurred on Friday, August 31 at sea, following suspected illegal fishing activities by some Axim Anto Apeosika fishermen. The Fisheries Enforcement Unit had deployed a team of marine police to enforce the laws. The fishermen, numbering about 25, reportedly pulled up the anchor rope to get the canoe to sail away from the shoreline. The police said the illegal fishermen immediately attacked the 2 marine policemen. One of the policemen, Detective Sergeant Wanda, was reportedly pushed into the sea in a bid to get him drowned but swam to safety. It took an order from the owner of the canoe, one Joseph Sumuna, to get the policemen released. No arrest has been made. Fishing by light aggregation is one of the illegal fishing practices contributing to the decline of Ghana's marine fish stock.
Now, still staying on issues of maritime security, the National Security Council says it is adopting stringent measures to address security along the maritime borders of the country. Now, illegal fishing in Ghanaian waters has over the years been a worry. As part of plans to curtail illegal happenings along the country's maritime boundaries, a high-level security meeting is set to be organized by the government of Ghana and other stakeholders to formulate a national maritime strategy. And we have in the studio been joined by Osei Dixon, who is the National Security Council, with the National Security Council Secretariat. Good afternoon to you, Osei.
Good afternoon.
Now, so why have we existed without a maritime strategy for all these years?
I think that, if you look at post-colonial Africa in particular, you would realize that the development of maritime strategies took a very long way, or a step back for some time, some period of time, largely because the nation states, the post-colonial states, were largely constrained by internal issues that were more focused on those ones than they were concerned with offshore matters and things like that. There was late development of serious activities at sea, for example, commercial activity in the area of like oil and gas and things like that. These things were later discovered, and it was when these resources, hydrocarbons, were discovered, that increasing attention came. And so the nature of the threats that had been directed towards maritime infrastructure, subsea structures, and things like that took some time in coming.
No, so
Ghana,
what is a maritime strategy?
A maritime strategy is a nation's own plan to be able to address the threats that confronts it from the maritime space or the maritime domain. So, for example, if you're dealing with piracy at sea, armed robbery at sea, if you're dealing, for example, with bunkering, you have oil, you discovered oil, and people are stealing the oil at sea and things like that. Then you begin to realize the enormity of it. Pollution issues become a very important segment. So long as you're focused on onshore resources, cocoa, other areas, you are deflected from looking at those blue economy issues, things in the marine space. Now, Ghana in 2010, for example, discovered oil. And it became very, very material that we start addressing resources or focusing resources on how we protect subsea infrastructure, how we protect our fishermen, how we protect, because attention was then going to shift definitely from other areas, from the Gulf of Aden to the Gulf of Guinea, from Nigeria to Ghana, from Benin to Ghana, and from Ghana to other places. So these are a response to the threat levels that increasingly we're beginning to see.
How crucial will this strategy be in addressing illegal fishing practices, for instance?
Well, I think that, in a number of ways. One is that, there's the issue of petroleum, for example. That's right. And it's important that we look at the various institutions and harmonize their activity or their joint efforts and operations to be able to stem activities or threats that confront fishermen. You would also realize, we live in a region. The ECOWAS, if we draw a strategy, part of the strength of our own strategy will emanate from the ECOWAS region. ECOWAS, for example, has an an ECOWAS integrated maritime strategy. The African Union, for example, has one. But the nation states, the various nation states, are now crafting ones. And that is the kind of effort that Ghana, for example, under the Security Governance Initiative, is engaged in doing. A very useful activity. Because increasingly, we're beginning to see that, like, for example, up from 2016, you've had about 197 attacks along the Gulf of Guinea. This is a matter of great concern.
So we understand that there's this government of Ghana and stakeholder meeting to formulate this strategy. Tell us a bit about that one.
Yes. Still under the Security Governance Initiative, we Ghana government has made commitments towards getting stakeholders who are within the maritime domain to synergize their efforts. You remember that from 2010, we've had a Marine Police, you've had the Navy, you had Ghana Maritime Authority, the GMA, as key regulator of the maritime sector. There's an increasing need to synergize those efforts with the Fisheries Commission and with EPA and so on and so forth. Other organizations who have equities within the maritime domain. It's important that we synergize their effort. At national security, our effort is to bring those stakeholders who bear on security, all of them together. So largely, the whole effort is to ensure that we speak with one voice, see the threats from different angles, and then address them as appropriately as possible.
Thank you very much, Osei Dixon, who is with the National Security Council Secretariat. Thank you. This is Midday Live on TV3. Stay tuned. We have sports after the break. Welcome back. Composer of popular classical piece Oye James Varick Ama has lamented the royalty system in Ghana is nothing to write home about. He hopes for an efficient system that adequately rewards creativity and respects intellectual property. The iconic composer also talks about how it feels to have the president as a #1 fan.
Oye, oye. We're talking about classical piece, Oye, and the fact that the song is going places. And we are glad to have the composer of that very tune here with us, Mr. James Varick Ama. How does it feel to have the president as your biggest fan here in Ghana?
I feel good, wonderful. I feel like, a dream come true. The #1 citizen of the land enjoys your song. I feel good. Very good about it.
The Chinese band did surprise President Akufo-Addo, thrilling him with popular Thanksgiving song Oye.
The first time I saw it, I said, wow, that's good. I know a few choirs and groups outside the country who have performed it, but I didn't expect that from the Chinese police band. Especially when they have other national songs to play for the president, and they choose to play Oye, and I was proud to hear that. I felt good, yeah.
How far do you see this very piece get to or go?
You know, when I think that Oye is done, at point I think that okay, the song has made it, and it has gone to where it has to go. I hear new things. I hear a new dimension. Remember, I saw one European group perform it some time last year, and I said, wow, okay. It makes you think, okay, maybe it's a timeless song. Let's see how it goes, how far it goes.
Beyond Oye, what are the other works that people may not know? I know you have a lot of fantastic tunes there, but for the viewers.
Sebribi Papa bi wasidechia eye udio. Sebribi Papa bi wasidechia eye udio. That's my way. Enye mi na maye eye unkuto na waye. Sebribi Papa bi wasidechia eye udio. Enye mi na maye eye unkuto na waye. Sebribi Papa bi wasidechia eye udio. Mama mi huatom. Mi hunya menye mi hunya menka. Mianka min sehebi wa mama sehebi.
You have composed a lot of classical pieces for churches, and other people in Ghana are enjoying them. Royalties. How do you find the royalty system here in Ghana?
It is quite sad that the Ghanaian mentality, what we think about music in general, especially arts music, is that it's just a hobby, and it makes it so difficult for people to invest in it. Aside the investment, when someone performs your song without any permission and you say anything about it, they rather think they've done you a favor. So it's very difficult. Royalties, no. I'm telling you, I've not made anything from this song or any other songs I've written. So the issue about royalties, it is not something encouraging to talk about. We don't think about our artists, and we don't think that they should make it. When they make it and they are okay, they are able to think and produce more. But when they are frustrated and they don't have anywhere to go, they abandon what they are doing. After some years, we still talk about, oh, we used to have this guy here. We used to have this choir here. We used to, and that we have been using to like that. So we need to promote our own. We need to. It is a must.
Jean-Pierre Bemba, a former warlord and vice president of the DR Congo, has been excluded from December's presidential election. Bemba has been tipped as one of the potential replacements for President Joseph Kabila. The top court in the Democratic Republic of Congo on Monday excluded former Vice President and opposition leader Jean-Pierre Bemba from standing for election because of a witness tampering conviction at the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC. In a judgment broadcast on national television, the court ruled that the Election Commission had rightly invalidated Bemba's candidacy last month, saying that witness tampering is a form of corruption as stipulated in electoral law. And that's all for Midday Live, but let's take a look at the top stories once again. Economist blames hostile methods used in restructuring economy for massive job losses in the last 1 year. John Mahama's supporters mount series of attacks on founder of AUCC after he admonished the former president to reconsider his flag bearership bid. And court in DR Congo bans Jean-Pierre Bemba from contesting country's presidential elections. For more news, do go to 3news.com. My name is Efua Tieku. Good afternoon.